Hey there, it's me again. So I was born in the 70s and I grew up in the 80s, but the most formative years of my life were the 90s. And the 90s it was a great decade. The music was amazing, independent film was booming, and I was in my 20s. And being in my 20s, I felt like the whole world was in front of me. And it was then that I firmly vowed one day to become a filmmaker. Inspired by several films of that decade, more and more, it became kind of an obsession. I mean, I had to pursue it. I tried to absorb as much independent film as I possibly could. It never occurred to me that films could ever be made outside of places like New York or California. Every film you ever saw, ever, up until that point, was New York or California. You basically thought the entire world took place in those two places. It seemed otherworldly that you could actually write a script and get your hands on a cinematic camera and shoot a film. It didn't seem like a thing that was possible. And so this is when digital video was still kind of several years away from being like developed for consumer use, for even professional use. Digital video just wasn't a thing that was super mainstream at that point. Basically, all celluloid formats for anything cinematic at the time was 35 millimeter, and nobody in the world except, big studios could afford 35 millimeters. And if you wanted to make a legitimate film, you had to use either Super 8 or if you could afford one, a 16 millimeter. I had a girlfriend who worked at a camera shop. They had a real, honest to God, Arriflex 16S, and it was on consignment. And I'd never seen anything like it. At the time, I believe it was 1994, and this thing was $2,500, which it might as well have been $25 million for all the world, because I didn't have $25. But that was the easy part, though. When you consider, on the whole, paying $2,500 for a camera, it was the cost of the 16 millimeter film stock and subsequent processing that was the difficult part. You ever wonder why so many indie films were shot in black and white? Anyway, in 1994, I saw a film that used a similar Arriflex camera, black and white film. It was called Clerks, and it forever changed how I see and appreciate film. It changed how I hear and appreciate dialogue. Now, being 20 years old, not having much of an idea of what I wanted to be when I grew up, the film was so completely relatable. It pretty fairly gave an accurate dissertation about doing what you thought you were supposed to be doing, more than anything else, doing what you were told you should be doing. Clerks very much spoke to the disillusionment of being plucked from childhood and stuck into the shoes of adulthood without much of a guidebook to help you with this really disjointed transition. We were the kids that didn't take the SATs. We weren't really given much counseling about the advantages of college and what a college education would lead to. And so we didn't really see the angle to more school. We got these crappy low-paying jobs because it's what we believed we were supposed to do. You get out of school, you go to work. But I guess I should have paid better attention during the high school career that basically ended with me and my best friend getting our GEDs on the same day. But, there you go. And Clerks was a brilliant reflection of my life. It proved that I wasn't alone in not knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I guess that's why it resonated so much with me. There's only so much stocking and cleaning and inventory checking you can do in a day before you start resorting to new and interesting ways to do the things you'd rather be doing.
When's this period over?
8 more minutes.
What are you shitting me? I want to get cigarettes.
Hey man, just wait a few minutes, okay?
Fuck that. I'm gonna break my crazy neck on this ladder. Now lose the skates, Dorothy Hamill, and open the fucking store.
Dante, where are you?
He's busy.
In a second.
Fuck in a second. Oh, look at you. You can't even pass.
I can pass.
How about covering the point? Man, you suck.
Who are you to make assessments?
Hey, I'll assess all I want, pal.
Dante, you in or out?
Hey, don't pass to this guy. He sucks. You suck.
Oh, like you're any better?
Yeah, I'll whip your ass any day, pal.
It's easy for you to say from over here.
Give me a stick, pretty boy. I'll knock your fucking teeth out and pass all over your ass.
Hey, are you open?
Yeah, you open. No!
More than anything, though, you're given to the introspection and self-evaluation that comes from growing up and wondering at the same time how to be a grown-up. They call those high school movies coming-of-age stories. What happens when you actually do come of age and then the only thing in front of you is more aging? It's weird. They never tell you that part of the story. It's always fight the bully, get the girl, graduate, happily ever after. That's what Clerks is. It's the SAT questions that never got asked. It's the guidance counseling for people that never heard of the concept of guidance counselors till after they left school.
Well, why guidance counselors?
Well, if your job was as meaningless as theirs, wouldn't you go crazy too?
Come to think of it, my guidance counselor was kind of worthless.
See? It's important to have a job that makes a difference, boys. That's why I manually masturbate caged animals for artificial insemination.
It's the enormous reality that exists between dreaming and trying to live your dreams. Well, it proved that anyone could do it. It proved that if you had a, well, not even a good story, but a story, if you could tell it well and had a few friends to help you, you could make a film. It was legitimate permission to dream again. And that was really the thrust of it. It was anti-Hollywood. It was entirely unheard of for a film to garner this much success outside of the Hollywood microcosm. And for it to do this well, it was unheard of. The actors and whatever crew that Kevin Smith used were entirely non-union. And this is a bit of a sin when it comes to making films. And it's basically one of the main reasons that I personally loved it so much. It gave a big, fat, wet middle finger to convention as it was passing by on its way to the bank, because with a budget of $27,000 that he raised independently through like credit card debt and selling comic books, it grossed over $3 million. Now, actual independent film was both legitimate and profitable. Overnight, it became an industry that was funded by the people building it, instead of the people more interested in controlling it and shaping it into a product of marketing and merchandising, instead of anything resembling originality. Like, the filmmakers were in charge. And Clerks was the answer to writing a script and making a movie based on what you wrote, without someone telling you how it had to be done. Without someone focus grouping it to see what demographics it tested well with in order to maximize profitability. It was made solely for the people that it was about. Kevin Smith wanted that audience because that's who he was at the time. It was a success for everyone who felt disenfranchised. It was a success for everyone who came of age and went out with big hopes and dreams and then got a crappy job. It was acerbic, and it was often silly.
Empire had the better ending. I mean, Luke gets his hand cut off, finds out Vader's his father, Han gets frozen, taken away by Boba Fett. It ends on such a down note. I mean, that's what life is, a series of down endings. All Jedi had was a bunch of Muppets.
It was occasionally hysterical.
That's nothing compared to how my cousin Walter died.
How did he die?
He broke his neck.
That's embarrassing.
He broke his neck trying to suck his own dick.
More than anything, it said most of the things we were thinking at the time.
Cute cat. What's its name?
Annoying customer.
Fucking dickhead.
Yes, Dante did come off as a bit of a whiner.
I'm not even supposed to be here today. Fuck! I'm not even supposed to be here today. I'm not even supposed to be here today. Oh, fuck you.
You'd be wrong if you said he didn't have a good reason for it. And yes, Randall did come off as a bit of a sociopathic malcontent who was quite happy to watch the world burn.
Or anything.
Yeah, not yet.
And I remember one time in his day. I was only pointing out that you weren't paying any attention to what I was saying.
I hope it feels good.
You hope what feels good?
I hope it feels so good to be right. There's nothing more exhilarating than pointing out the shortcomings of others, is there?
Though again, to say he was wrong for feeling the way he did sometimes would be disingenuous. I mean, Randall was basically the it of all of us.
Title does not dictate behavior.
What?
If title dictated my behavior as a clerk serving the public, I wouldn't be allowed to spit water at that guy. But I did. So my point is that people dictate their own behavior.
Still, two guys coming into their own as adults with no idea what they wanted to do outside of playing hockey with their friends and no plan or vision for the future. Well, you just might say, this was the best they could do under those circumstances. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not making excuses for their behavior or their apathy. I'm just saying, when you're adrift, sometimes you kind of just lean into it and go with the current.
What? What do you want me to say? Yes, some of the things you're saying are true, but that's the way things are. They're not going to change.
Make them change.
I can't, all right? Jesus, will you leave me alone? I can't make changes in my life like that. If I could, I would. But I don't have the ability to risk the comfortable situations on the big money and the fabulous prizes.
Who are you kidding? You can't sew.
Jesus H. Christ, I can't.
So what, you're going to sit there and be miserable because you don't have the guts to face change?
Sometimes it's just easier to do that. Sometimes comfort is our most prized and prioritized possession. And any discomfort that comes from any change, positive or otherwise, just seems unthinkable. And I think that's one of the main things of this film. More than that, it seriously contributed to independent film really taking hold, starting a renaissance in the medium of film. There were no more excuses, and there was an abundance of very committed people to light their torches from the fire that was started by Clerks. And it changed the face of film as we know it. Gone were the days where the studios held the power of what we consumed. Much to the gnashing of teeth from the critics and the people in charge telling us what was good. Clerks was wildly influential in that, and it's for these reasons that it holds a place in my top 5 films of all time. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, tell me I'm wrong, eat breakfast for dinner. Be well.